Who are you? A simple question that you can either answer without hesitation, or if you're like me, it sends you into an existential crisis, which is actually the perfect way to play this game. Refine Self is a game similar to those moon shoes from childhood. Sure, they might take you up pretty high, but coming down, there's a 50% chance your life will be changed forever. But instead of shattering your ankle, this game shatters your self-image. That said, I quickly found myself playing through the game multiple times to uncover the secrets of its story, as well as a few things about myself. With its choose your own adventure approach to personality test, Refine Self attempts to judge players based on their specific playstyles, which to me sounded optimistic, but makes more sense after knowing what the game's about. Before getting into the game, I think it's only fair to warn you that there will be a lot of spoilers in this video, so if you have even the chance a skinny pizza slice doesn't get inhaled at a school pizza party's amount of interest, you should probably go play the game first. It's like $8 on Steam, so definitely give it a chance. Following the death of an estranged and, more importantly, extremely attractive doctor, the protagonist we play as, formerly known as Atsuo, is left alone with the mission of fulfilling the promise she made to the doctor who created her. This is also a good time to tell you, don't panic, but we might be in the Matrix. However, instead of getting to eat our favorite colored pill, we are tasked with completing the experiment left behind by the doctor as many times as we need to. Just kidding, it caps out at 3. Atsuo, whose name coincidentally translates to vessel, is what is known as an EAI, a robot capable of making decisions based on emotional responses rather than database logic, which pretty much means we can make really bad decisions. Each playthrough has the exact same beginning with our protagonist visiting the doctor's grave, but everything after is up to us. Her. You get the point. The world of Refine Self is filled with androids mostly created by the late Doctor, each one possessing its own pseudo-personality. The reason I say pseudo is because there's something less human-like about each android in comparison to our protagonist. Maybe it has to do with the protagonist being the prototype, but each android besides ourselves functions more like a robot with an emulated personality rather than one that has been programmed to learn and function based on previous emotional circumstances. For example, my favorite from the cast, a gambling robot named Mirai, has the snarky personality of a card shark running a shady gas station shaped casino. She's really funny, but even with her jokes, she never abandons this robot-like obsession with her task of swindling the protagonist out of money. This behavior can also be seen in the support model known as Kibo, who will blow up without a second thought once her task is complete, or the shepherd robot Honori, whose sole purpose is to take care of sheep, which you will never be able to guess why. Imagine waking up one day knowing it would be your last day ever. To be honest, it's something that I contemplate a lot. Now, what if instead of the time limit of a day, you were given the limit of a day's worth of actions? Instead of doing any and everything you can within the span of a day, you almost want to do the complete opposite and not act at all. Regardless of what you choose to do with your actions, we can all agree that it will likely be something you value the most. Or you could just do whatever you come across, like picking flowers. Look, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. This is the first part of how Refine Self defines you. Simply choosing to stop and get into a cardboard box is something everyone wouldn't do, but you did. Why did you do? You're really weird. Atsuo is essentially in the limited action scenario I described earlier, where everything she does brings her closer to the deepest sleep she'll ever have. Despite her having the ability to prevent this by turning the key on her back, she decides that it would be better to let time run out as a way of meeting the doctor again in the end. So at the time of writing, I realized this isn't the most upbeat subject, therefore I like to shift gears to one that always gets me going: violence. Specifically violence motivated by wonky reasons. The wonkier the better. Remember this robot? Yeah, Honori. She's coincidentally the final boss of this game, and is someone you have to fight at the end of every playthrough. What is the reason for this violence? Sheep. Let me explain. Once our heart is filled with actions, our last act as the protagonist is to keep our promise to the doctor. That promise is not being kept, at least not in the way the doctor intended. Before her death, the doctor had a contingency plan in place that involved cloning her DNA into those of sheep. These sheep would lead to the regeneration of said doctor 100 years from now. This is later explained to be because of active nanomachines that erode human bodies. And you can probably guess who made those. The world of Refine Self is also populated, or was populated, with humans that were reasonably apprehensive of the doctor's EAI experiments. Throughout the game, there's clear signs of humans taking a dislike to the androids that the doctor has created. There's even a minigame where the protagonist is injured during an invasion attempt, which at the time seemed misplaced, but with more context it seems that the doctor, and I say this from a place of pure malice, is maybe, possibly, definitely mentally ill, and has developed a hatred of humans that she coped with by building her own, causing a conflict between her and the outside world where the only solution that she can think of is creating a deadly virus via nanoscopic machines that delete humans, because therapy was too expensive. The problem that our protagonist has with this plan of cloning the Doctor's DNA and then extracting it from Sheep is that the reborn Doctor would not have any memories of their time together, so destroying Sheep becomes kind of like a life goal for her. That brings us back to Inori, who has been programmed to protect these sheep at all costs. I enjoy this fight because depending on what you choose to do during your playthrough changes the abilities you have access to in combat, like cutting deals with a shady dealer for a machine gun. And this might be mild compared to what you could do, as every personality coincides with something different, causing this fight to feel fresh for all 3 of my playthroughs, which brings us to the end of the playthroughs. I still have more yapping to do. Once playing through the game 3 times and seeing this simulated world for what it really is, we finally get our tasty red pill, the one that takes us out of the Matrix for good so we can come face to face with the Doctor I've been simping for the entire game, just to be told by the woman of our dreams that we ruined everything she's been working towards. Starting to see the bigger picture when it comes to this nanovirus thing. Maybe 100 years isn't enough. As a result, the Doctor throws us into the simulation over and over again, but as you might have guessed, we mess it up every single time. It's here for the first time that the protagonist displays the raw emotions humans are known for without any input from us, and for the first time we the player are put in control of someone besides Atsuwa, this time with a choice that doesn't feel very human. This is the second part of how refined self defines you, and even though this decision between wiping Atsuwa's memories for the sake of the Doctor's plan or allowing her to remain as she is may not affect your physical personality score, it definitely hit me right in the feels. I for one couldn't go through with the memory wipe, something about it just seemed too cold, so I have no idea what actually occurs if you choose to. Instead, I spent my afternoon crying over a pixelated android girl, which was not something I had on my to-do list, but that's just life, I guess. Sometimes the most beautiful things come when you least expect it, in ways so subtle that you almost miss them. The keyword here is almost. You do not have to miss them. When looking through Steam reviews for this game, I saw a few negative ones that compared the game's personality ranking system to that of a BuzzFeed article. And although I don't agree, I can see some validity to this argument. If you go into this game expecting nothing but a personality test and never stop to become immersed in the world or go the extra mile to discover secrets, you will for sure be disappointed. The personality judging system at the end of the day is just code that spits out a personality based on predetermined variables and can be manipulated to achieve a desired result. However, I don't think that's the way this game should be played. During my playthroughs, I did experiment to see what would happen if I took a right instead of a left, but always tried to keep the thought that I was being judged in the back of my head. This way of playing allowed me to focus on the story and come out with personality results that I could self-reflect on. In terms of accuracy of personality, I say the game does well, and I'd even argue it's on par with online personality tests. I really enjoy being able to just relax and play a game instead of the infamous strongly agree, strongly disagree testing setup, which feels unnatural to me. That being said, since it is a choose your own adventure game, the exact response you're looking for may not be available all the time, and for me that's not a bad thing, but it's definitely something I can see contributes to believing the game is shallow in terms of gauging a person's personality, especially if you have taken an official test before that gives you more freedom when it comes to personal life questions. I'll be honest, lately I've been on a self-improvement journey, working out, meditation, you know, doing all the stuff the gurus say is good for you, and it's also giving me this newfound curiosity when it comes to self-discovery. So for me, this game couldn't have shown up at a better time. On top of a solid story and cast of hard-to-hate characters, Refined Self appeals to the possibility that we might not be as self-aware as we think we are. To be clear, there's nothing wrong with traditional personality quizzes that ask you specific questions pertaining to social settings and day-to-day encounters, but at times, it's easy to overthink yourself into choosing neutral because you can't decide whether or not you slightly agree that Pizza Party scams students out of rightfully deserved portion sizes. That question hit a little too close to home. I think I've got some unresolved trauma. So will this game give you a clear-cut answer as to what your personality is? Well, kind of. I think personality is a constantly changing parameter that is hard to track by any measurable standard. If you're looking for anything or anyone to define you, I think you get into this strange realm of confirmation bias, where whatever is displayed by that thing gives you this pre-existing notion of how you should behave, and that's a dangerous line to walk. Instead of being defined by this game, I was able to self-reflect on values that it said I held and decide for myself if I align with them, which not only gives you complete control over who you choose to be, but also allows you to remain self-aware of any values you would like to move away from. And that's not something that's just exclusive to this game, but is healthy advice for anyone growing up in this age where pretending to be something you're not pays much better than being someone you are. I think we're getting a little too heavy again. Maybe I should have just went to therapy after the pizza party.